There's a lot of things that you can mess up on and make mistakes on as an owner operator. What I'm going to talk to you about in this video puts owner operators out of business. Let's get right into it. As a new owner operator, there's going to be a lot of things that you need to be prepared to budget for. Things like your health insurance, which some owner operators don't have. You need to be budgeting for your life insurance, disability insurance in case you can't work. You need to be budgeting for your taxes, which again, some owner operators don't budget appropriately for. You need to be sure you're budgeting and funding some sort of retirement account. You need to be funding a emergency savings account as an owner operator. I actually feel that you as an owner operator should always have at least 30 days running capital, cash, close by that you could access in the event that you can't put your hands on cash from any other source. And that is actually relevant to how the driver is set up. I run today and get paid on it next week. And I still believe in having at least 30 days running capital close by in case I can't put my hands on cash from any other source in case of an emergency. But if you're like many owner operators and you don't get paid that quickly, which a lot don't, you may want to have more than 30 days running capital on deck. You need to be funding some sort of repair or maintenance account to help you deal with big repair bills as they come up. And you also need to be funding what I call a truck replacement account. And you're going to fund this out of the same money that you were making your truck payment with. So if you don't have a truck payment, or once you get done making your truck payment, you should still continue to make that payment, except you should be making it to yourself. And this does two things for the owner. One, it keeps them in the habit of making the payment. They're still budgeting for a payment, even though they don't have it right now. And two, the owner operator is preparing for something that is inevitably going to happen when they are going to need to replace their truck. So like for me, I can replace my truck for $15,000, $20,000. And if that time comes to replace my truck and I've fully funded my truck emergency replacement fund, then I can just pay cash for the next truck. If I'm not ready for that when it comes up, at least I got a down payment. Plus I've been budgeting the payment in. I've already trained myself to make the payment. So you got to budget and prepare for all of that stuff. And obviously you got to budget for your weekly, monthly overhead, fuel, insurance, stuff like that. And then you got to also budget for your personal expenses, your house note or your rent or your car payment or your utilities or whatever. There's a lot of things that you need to be preparing for. And you can't skip out on any of the stuff that I just rolled off. Well, maybe, hopefully you won't ever need disability. But everything else that I just rolled off, you can't shortcut on that stuff, because if you do, it's gonna eventually catch up with you. So once you as a new owner operator know that you need to be preparing for things and you're funding these things and you're budgeting for all of these things, you just need to keep that figure in mind, in the front of your mind, before you make any decisions that impact you financially. Before you buy a car, before you create any payments, before you charge anything on a credit card, before you take time off, before you take a vacation, all of that stuff impacts you financially. So I'm speaking to lease operators. I've spoken to a few that have expressed to me they really don't like the setup that they're in. And they think the problem is one thing. And I'll admit, I've never done a lease, so I may not be qualified to speak on this, but I do understand trucking. And when I'm talking to these lease operators, what I hear is they simply don't know their true cost of operation. And when I say true cost of operation, I don't just mean what it costs you to run your truck. I mean your true cost of operating, what it costs you to live, all of the stuff that I laid off at the top of this video. Remember, you can't skip out on any of that stuff because it's eventually going to catch up with you if you do. So I'm speaking to lease operators right now that think that their problem is they're in a bad lease or that their lease is too expensive. But I would say their main problem is they don't know their true cost of operation. And then they're finding out after they run. After they run, they're finding out when they get their check that they wasn't productive enough. And if you're in a contract, if you're on a lease, if you're not productive enough, your paycheck is what has to take a cut. Your paycheck is what has to make up that difference, right? So if you're not preparing for the things that are going to come up and you're not budgeting for the things that are going to come up, in my opinion, it makes it really easy to count money that really isn't yours and then to overspend. And I speak to a lot of lease operators and owner operators that fall victim to that. So the biggest thing that causes owner operators to fail is not budgeting, not fully understanding everything that they need to be preparing for, and then making decisions that impact them financially without understanding what they need to be preparing for. So like for me, the easiest way to stop this, to prevent this from happening, is to just have multiple business accounts. So like you can get paid from your one main business account, and then you can take and put money on a weekly basis in your repair and maintenance account that's separate for repairs and maintenance. You can put money weekly in your overhead account. You can put money weekly in your tax account, in your account for your emergency truck replacement fund or for your emergency savings fund. You can be putting the money in, you can be funding those accounts, budgeting the money for those accounts weekly as you get paid. No different than what used to happen when you were a company driver. This is what your company was doing for you, right? So some people will say, I don't want to manage all those different accounts. It's too difficult to manage all those accounts. In my opinion, it's a lot easier to do it that way, okay? The only other way to do it is to run everything through one account and then do all of your transactions through one account. And at the end of the month, somebody, you or a record keeper or somebody, got to go through the bank statement for that one account and categorize each one of those transactions. Whereas if you separate your money on the account level, when you separate your expenses on the account level, at the end of the month, when you get the account statements for those different bank accounts, every transaction that came through that account automatically is already categorized into the expense category that it needs to go into. So all you got to do at the end of the month is just write down the expenses in the appropriate category for each account that you got set up. So it's not difficult to do that through multiple accounts. And in my opinion, when you do it that way, it's easier to make sure that you are budgeting for everything that you need to budget for. Because not budgeting properly, not preparing for the things that are going to come up, is one of the leading causes why truck drivers, owner operators, tend to count money that's not theirs and then start spending money that's really not theirs, right? So like, I know that a lot of people, owner operators, individuals in general, don't like the word budget. But let me tell you something, Holmes. When it comes to finances, you're either going to be master or you're going to be slave. And when you're on a budget, you're the master and the money is the slave, because you're telling it what to do and where to go. But when you're not on a budget, and you don't need me to tell you this, you know for yourself, it literally feels as if your money is telling you what you can and what you can't do. So biggest thing that causes owner operators to fail, not understanding what they got to be preparing for, not budgeting for it, and then consequently counting money that's really not theirs, and then making decisions that impact them financially without understanding everything that they have to be preparing for. And I know that somebody is probably going to comment down in the comment section, you know, there's better things to do with your money than just stick it in a bank account, and I will agree. But this video is not about what to do with your money after you get it. This video is about how to accumulate money. And when you hear owner operators say, if you want to be successful as an owner operator, you got to learn how to handle your money. You got to handle your money correctly. This is what they're talking about. Having a simple system, whether you do it through multiple accounts or whether you do it through one account, the point is, don't count money that's not yours. So this video is about having a simple system set up in your life that allows you to make sure that you're budgeting for everything that you need to budget for, so that you can accumulate money, so that you can fund everything that you need to be funding. And that's what's going to help you get stable. And when you get stable, maybe you can run a different play. But until you get stable, you need to do everything you can to make sure that you're not overspending. Maurice Bay, the Helpful Trucker here. For more helpful CDL tips, go here or consider subscribing to my YouTube channel right here. You could have been anywhere else in the world, but instead you chose to be here with me, and I really appreciate that.